Hey, what's up everybody? Johnny here from GG Trades and welcome to the long-term growth intro. If you haven't checked out our first video, which is the general introduction to GG Trades, I recommend you go ahead and check that out. Besides that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the content. So, in this presentation, we'll be going over the GG Trades long-term growth outline and expectations. I'll be going over a couple of key differences between trading and investing, my recommended portfolio allocation in terms of my investment strategies, and then I'll give you a little bit of an intro to the strategies I use, and we'll go over what I call the long-term funnel, next steps in what the members of GG Trades will be taking, and then we'll go over some membership information and we'll open it up to questions after. So, getting into the long-term outline and expectations, I've essentially split this up into 4 phases. First one being building and learning, second, practicing, third, guidance, fourth is patience. So in the first phase, we'll work together to build or adjust your portfolio. And of course, one of the biggest parts here is going to be learning strategies for investing. So what should your portfolio allocation be? How to get free shares in swing trade, IPOs and how you can use that to your advantage, deposits, hedging and cash balance, what buy zones are for certain stocks, and of course, technical and fundamental analyses on stocks and companies. In the second phase, we'll be putting everything to practice. Everything that you learned in the first phase, this is where we will be using everything to actually execute and put into practice. So charting and researching, determining buy zones, etc. The third phase, which is guidance, and as well as the fourth phase of patience, this all overlaps throughout the first and the second phase. So I'll be helping you one-on-one, and possibly other admins will as well. But essentially, I'll be helping you with the strategies as well as building, learning, practicing, and of course, hedging your portfolio and knowing when to buy and sell. Patience is extremely key across the board, just because when you're trading options and things, you can wait for a play to come to you. But I'm here to tell you that the long-term investments, they always require extended amounts of patience, and your patience will be tested. For the deposits, I put this under the patience column because you really want to make sure that you are patient in your deposits. Don't be throwing extra money that you should be setting aside for other reasons into your long term. Make sure you have a stable and consistent financial situation when it comes to depositing into that long term. And of course, what we're expecting for growth is, we're expecting to hit at least 20% plus. And generally, that's our goal. For some people, it might be more. But in the end, we're going to work together to at least get you to that 20% benchmark. So let's get right into trading versus investing. This is a key thing that I think beginners should always be aware of. They need to keep this in mind. And when it comes to trading, when you're trading options can always go to zero. So they can expire worthless, and anything that you buy, it's basically money you should be okay with going to zero. When you're trading options as well, it requires a lot more short-term attention. Anything can happen in the middle of the day. You could be up 150%, and then before you know it, you could be down 25%. Of course, everybody knows options leads to larger short-term gains, but it's much more risky. In my personal opinion, you should not be trading options until you have a long-term portfolio, just because you want to have some type of backup safe haven. And honestly, my number one priority is always the long-term. Another thing about trading options is, when you trade the options, you really don't have any exposure to owning an underlying stock. You can play options all day, but in the end, when a stock runs up 100% and you sell that option, that's it. So essentially, the part about investing into a stock is you have the assets, and it's always going to hold value, and you're always going to get the benefits of that underlying stock moving up. So when it comes to investing, like I just mentioned, holdings always have value. It's fairly rare that you'll see a stock go from 20 or 50 or 100 down to zero. If it's a solid company, that won't happen. When it comes to investing as well, you need to have a long-term perspective. You need to pretty much ignore the short-term market trends, because as we all know, stocks generally tend to move up, and it takes a long time for it to happen. So you need to keep that perspective of a long-term. Of course, it takes longer to see huge growth, but that's the whole point. It's called a long-term for a reason. So the long-term, of course, as I mentioned, will always matter whether you trade options or not. And I think the most important part about a long-term portfolio and investing is it opens doors to market exposure. So when you're trading options, you only have exposure to what you're holding. But of course, in the same realm, when it comes to investing, you can diversify your portfolio and have a lot of holdings in different industries, and that way, whenever one industry might be going up, you have exposure to it. It's all about just starting that exposure and making sure you have a foot in the door to start. So to get into it, this is my recommended portfolio allocation, and I also just wanted to make a disclaimer, for everybody who's in the GG Trades community, and as well as anybody new that will be coming in, these percentages will change. Essentially, this is my strategy, and depending on your portfolio size, I'm going to work with you to determine how these percentages should be. Might be a little more aggressive, might be a little more conservative. So my general investment strategy is 40 to 50% is going to be put into what I call the core. These are your buy and hold stocks, your ETFs, your major market indices, as well as your big name growth, value, and tech stocks. The second category, which is the dividends, I generally have about 15 to 20% of my portfolio in dividends. These are the ones that provide you a guaranteed annual return. My favorite ones are AbbVie, Walgreens, Altria, Coca-Cola, Iron Mountain. Those are just a couple of my favorite ones. There's a ton of them out there, but these are the ones that I currently hold. So moving into the strategies and swings, this is going to be the riskier aspect of your portfolio. Generally, these swing trades are going to be used to make some shares free, as well as the swing trades that you see as good opportunities for a quick profit. So again, I only allocate about 15 to 20% of this because I want to stay somewhat conservative. However, I can also handle my risk management, and I'm also going to help you determine how risky you should be on your portfolio based on your goals. And of course, the most important part here is going to be your cash balance. I always allocate about 10 to 15%. I hold those for any individual or market pullbacks, actually, and as well as the buy zones that I determine for my current holdings or something that I'm looking to get into. You also use this to hedge during market uncertainty. So again, cash balance, you should always have at least 10 to 15%, and then the rest, it's pretty self-explanatory. So now let's talk about some of the strategies I use when it comes to my investments. So I've pretty much kind of broken this down into 5 broader names for it. So we have free shares and swing trades. I'm going to show you guys an example of what I'm talking about here. We have IPOs, buy zones, hedging, and cash balance. And of course, IPOs, these are extremely volatile, but it's a big part about if you pick the right ones, then you will have massive growth depending on that stock that you invest in. IPOs are great because everybody wants their hand in the cookie jar. Everybody wants to get in on a stock that's just coming out, and this can really lead to massive growth in your long-term portfolio. Buy zones, of course, determining those buy zones for stocks whenever you're expecting a pullback or whatever it is you want to invest in. You need to have these set buy zones for whatever you're holding or looking to get into. Hedging is specifically important just because when you're expecting a pullback, you want to be able to preserve your portfolio value. So there's different strategies that I'll be going over here as we progress through the journey. And as I've mentioned, cash balance, that's extremely important. I always make sure to have this general set rule of cash balance in my portfolio. So what am I talking about when it comes to free shares? Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So as you can see here, this is a small trade that I've made. This is a small example. And of course, the bigger your portfolio, the more you can do. So what did I do first? Step 1, I bought 30 shares here right at the bottom. This was on October 23rd of this year. Spent about $743. And within about a month, it ran up to about $35, $36. I sold 21 at $35.91. And now I'm holding 9 shares of Corsair free forever. And I got a very small profit on that. But the main point is you made those shares free. Essentially, you've paid nothing for it. And what that means is you can hold it forever, and if it grows, then that's awesome. You got those shares for free, and that's free equity that you have in your portfolio. Here's another small example. I bought 100 shares of Sundial. This was a cannabis stock that was getting a lot of hype. Honestly, the whole cannabis industry was on big talks this year. So I bought 100 shares, spent about $24.50, and within a week, it basically ran up 300%. I sold 35, got my investment back, $3 profit. It's small, but as you can see, I now have 65 shares for free. So the point is, just think about it. Imagine this stock runs up to, it goes up another dollar. That's $65 I just got in my portfolio. Either way, I don't really care what happens with it after because I've made it free. All right, let's jump into something that I've pretty much kind of illustrated here, and I like to call this a long-term funnel. So it really all starts with short-term gains and deposits, and of course you can see where my portfolio allocation really comes into play here with these connecting lines. But essentially, it all starts with short-term gains and deposits, and those that are in the GG Trades community, you already know, we're focusing on short-term gains to long-term growth. So these short-term gains that goes into your portfolio, you continue building out until you have your established core and dividend stocks. Once you have that foundation set, then you can start really taking up the other strategies and swings that we're doing. And of course, you always need to maintain that cash balance. And once you really funnel that money through, and you already have a set foundation, you're doing strategies and swings, you just continue to rinse and repeat, and eventually you'll see that long-term growth explode and really get up there, passing your expectations, utilizing some of these strategies. So for next steps, if you haven't already, of course, you need to start your long-term portfolio. Whatever brokerage you want to use, go ahead and open an account. I highly recommend that you do it separate from your options account. For me personally, when I used to have my options account with my long-term, I was always tempted to sell, and for an options play that I saw, and I realized, I really don't need this. I should not be doing this anyways. So I decided to separate my long-term from my options account, and I recommend you guys do the same. And as you guys can see here, I've brought up these concepts before. The building, learning, practicing, and guidance, as well as patience. I'll go back to that slide just so you guys can see that again. This is what we're going to be doing together for next steps. So as you start your long-term, I'll work with you to build your core and dividend holdings. We're going to go through the learning and the practicing strategies. And of course, we're going to execute and get that long-term growth. And of course, if you are interested, please go ahead and send Andrew a DM expressing your interest to be a member of the long-term growth squad. And he'll get back to you pretty much as soon as possible. So now I want to give you guys more insight into the upcoming classes, content, and sessions that we will be having in the long-term growth journey of GG Trades. I've broken it up into 4 topics so far. It's not going to be in this specific order, but you can definitely expect for me to touch base and walk you through these 4 topics moving forward. So first one being the technicals of our investing strategy. How do we form our strategy, the technical parts, and the right and wrong times to utilize it. Of course, you also need to keep in mind the strategies you apply to the market are not going to be 100%. So, of course, there will be right and wrong times to utilize it. Second being the technical and multi-time frame analyses. This is important for forming an accurate prediction of price movements, as well as avoiding tunnel vision during technical analysis. You need to be able to look at multiple time frames, and that will give you a lot more insight into what's going on with a stock, and that relates right to specific stock trends. Thirdly, we have researching safe stocks to invest in. So really looking at a stock fundamental, company financials, year-over-year performance, and of course, being able to cross-reference it with any competitors they may have. Lastly, we have the politics of investing. So as we all know, politics affects the stock market. News headlines will come out and it affects the market within minutes. So really, I'm here to help you guys know what headlines to pay attention to, how the government and politics affects stocks and industries, and of course, deciding what to invest in based on that. So for the last part, I'm going to hand it off to Andrew, and he's going to talk to you about the membership information. So go ahead, Andrew, take it away.
Guys, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the membership pricing and how we break it down. So the Elite membership is going to include access to all of our chat rooms in Discord, as well as active day trades, swing trades, and even leap alerts for longer term options plays. So this is definitely where you want to be if you're a day trader. If you're interested in options, we alert you entries and exits. We provide you guys with a ledger to understand where you should be at if you're following our alerts, as well as live trading. This is something we really pride ourselves in. It's a really awesome interactive experience where you can get into a voice call to hear our analysts live and trade with us as a group. The long-term portion of our membership, which Johnny just covered for you guys, that's going to break down to $35 a month or $95 a quarter. All right, so this is going to cover those details that Johnny just broke down, things like risk management and hedging, unique investment strategies, and also assistance building your portfolio. So what is unique about this is we're all in different situations, right? You might be, in your 20s, just starting your investing experience. You might be in your 30s. You may be closer to retirement, right? And have a different amount of capital, a different part in your life. But that's okay because we're going to help each and every one of you develop your own investing style and investing system that best suits your needs. So this is going to include a monthly portfolio analysis, as well as a review, as well as how to analyze and find these good companies to invest in for the long term. So the Elite Plus membership, this is going to be a bundle of Elite and long-term grouped together. So the Elite Plus, this is going to come with free monthly classes, free monthly group classes, as well as some options trade reviews by some of our analysts. And then also we're going to give you guys some trial memberships to hand out to your friends and family. So once per quarter, you can give a 5-day trial to any friends or family, anyone that you think might be interested in seeing what we have to offer. So one-on-one mentorships, whether with Ronnie or Johnny or Ross, one of our analysts, those are going to be separate, as well as some classes we're going to offer. So the Elite Plus, you get a free class thrown in there. And also keep in mind that the long term, this is going to be free for all of our founding members for the first 6 months. So right when we launch this, you're going to have access to this. So take advantage of that opportunity. And on that note, we are offering 5 more founding member positions based on popular demand. So those are going to be available. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested. Those are going to go quick. So definitely be sure to reach out to myself, Andrew, in Discord if you're interested in signing up for either the Elite, the Long Term, the Elite Plus, or becoming a founding member. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you, Andrew, and thank you for tuning in to the long-term growth intro of GG Trades. If you want to check out our Discord community and channel, we'll leave a link down in the description. Besides that, thanks again for tuning in.